show you how I decorate this cake with edible images. Now to start, I always go to my cake first. It's iced and in the refrigerator, and I like to measure the cake where I'm putting the decorations to make sure I print the decorations out the correct size. So I'm putting them on the top and on the side. So I just needed to measure to make sure that I print these out correctly. Now I'm printing these in a Word document. I'm making the margins narrow so I can fit more in here, and I'm going to insert picture from file, and I have all of these pictures saved. So I'm holding down the command key. I have a Mac and highlighting all of them and then clicking insert. And now I want to crop these. So I want to have no extra white space all around it. So I'm bringing all of the edges into the image so I can get an exact measurement of how big that is. Do you see on the bottom right corner, it tells me the height and the width of the image. So I just drag that until I get it to the correct size. Now I'm going to do the same thing for all of these. So I double click it and then click on crop, and I drag the edges in so there's no white border, and there's a natural white border on this. And then I'm just dragging that in and bringing it down to make it a little bit taller until I get it to the correct height. So I did the same thing for all of these, making sure that width and the height are the same for all of them. And for the purple and blue ones, I want the image to be reversed. So I get it to the correct size, and then I drag those side pieces until it flips and I get it to the correct size. I hope that makes sense. And now I want to print the name with the Turtles font. So I Googled Ninja Turtles font name generator, and I found this site, and then I can just type the name in there and it gives me a preview at the very top. And you can zoom in on this. You can mess with the character spacing and the line height and everything, and you could do different styles of shading. I really do love this site. So if I click on this, then I can do different colors I could do the outline a little thicker, a little thinner, and I can also mess with the colors in the shading. I can make it a little bit more green at the bottom or blue, like depending on what you click. So this site is really cool. I really do love it. So after I find the name that I like, then I'm going to click Command Shift and 4 and then drag that to make a screenshot. I do have a Mac again, so this is directions for a Mac. Then I'm opening up Canva, and I'm going to insert that picture, which was saved to my desktop, and I want to remove that purple background. So I am just going to drag these corners out just to make it as big as possible, and then I'm going to click BG Remover to remove that purple background. Now, I do have the Canva Pro version. I'm not sure if this is available in the free version, but that's how I remove backgrounds of pictures, and I'm just going to save it as a JPEG to my computer, and I can save it I can pick the size I want to save it to because I do have the Pro version. With the free version, you have to save it to a specific size. And then that's going to save to my downloads folder, which I can insert into this document that I'm printing out all of the images on my edible printer. So again, I want to double click it and crop so I have no white borders around here, and then just click it and then drag the corner out until I get it to the size that I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be approximately, what is it, like 7 inches, 6 or 7 inches wide. So that looks like the perfect size. I'm going to bring it down a little bit just to make it a little bit taller as well. And then I clicked Command P to print, and I'm going to my edible printer, and then I'm printing from the rear tray, and then I'm going to click print and print this out. Now I do have a video showing you how I print my edible images, and I will link that below. So now I have all my edible images printed. I like to cut the pieces so they're not all together, and then I need to cut an even white border around all of these. I like having a white border around all of my edible images. I just feel like it looks a lot nicer when I do it that way, and it makes it a little bit easier to cut. So I'm just cutting a white border around all of these, and then I have some fondant rolled out pretty thin, and there is always Tylose powder mixed into my fondant to help it set hard. I'm going to flip it upside down on a paper towel. I get some piping gel, and the reason I have the paper towel down is because I go over the edge of the image, making sure that I get the edges, because you want the edges to be covered with piping gel so it sticks to the fondant. So once that's done, I lift it up, and do you see how I'm curving it? I want to make sure that no air bubbles form behind it, so I'm carefully pressing it all the way down. And then I'm going to do that for all of the rest of the images. So I'm going to flip it upside down on the paper towel. Make sure that you have a clean paper towel. You don't want piping gel on the front of those images. And those two are going on a thicker piece of fondant because they are going on the top of the cake. So again, I'm getting piping gel on the back, going past the edges, making sure all of the edges are covered with the piping gel so it sticks down, and then these two are going on the thicker piece of fondant. And once I have all of the edible images glued to the fondant, I'm just taking my X-Acto knife and carefully cutting all of these out. Now the images already have a white border around them, so I'm just following the edge of the image, and then once it's cut out, I take my fingers and I'm going to smooth the jagged edges of the fondant to make it look nice and pretty. And here are all of my images. I'm just going to set those aside to dry. And now I got that out of the refrigerator. I'm taking a wet paper towel just to remove any of the icing that was stuck to the board. I'm trying to find the front of the cake, which looks most symmetrical. And then I'm going to get the bottom border on. So I have some piping gel on my brush, and I'm just getting piping gel along the bottom, and I rolled out a piece of black fondant really long, and I cut it with a ribbon cutter. I did that off screen, but I show how to do that in so many videos. I'm just wrapping that around where it overlaps. I'm cutting it and then removing the extra piece and then pressing the seam together. I'm going to use my palette knife just to press the top down to make sure it's nice and even and that that ribbon is touching the board so it's not jagged. Now I want to put this piece on the top. So again, I'm getting a little piping gel behind it and I'm going to stick that down kind of in the center. I want to still stick those other two turtles on the top. Now, like I said before, the purple and the red turtles are going on top. So I have them on a thicker piece of fondant so I can screw these little skewers underneath. And then I just got a little bit of green icing underneath it where it's going to touch the cake. And then I'm going to slide these down, making sure they are evenly spaced apart. And usually when I do that, any of that icing underneath is going to seep out. So I just take a dry paintbrush and remove any of that icing that is seeping out from the images just to make it look nice and clean. So now let's put the rest of the decorations on here. I'm holding that up and I'm paying attention to where it's touching the cake, only in the middle. So I'm getting a little green icing on the top, little piping gel on the bottom where it's touching that black piece, and I'm pushing this in. I don't want too much icing because I don't want it seeping out the side. So I like to turn it to the side and check and make sure I can't see any icing seeping out. And then I also printed a happy birthday banner. I did that off camera, but that's pretty simple. You do the same thing in the Word to make it the same size, and I just printed that out on my printer and got icing behind it where it's touching the cake. I'm waving it to give it a little bit of motion, a little bit more visual interest. And then I made that number 6 too. Again, I just printed that out the size I wanted it to be and put it on a fondant backing. And then I'm holding those turtles up to see where they're touching the cake. So they're touching the cake on the inside. So I'm just getting a little bit of icing behind them and then sticking them down. So when I put this back in the fridge, the icing is really going to solidify and it's going to hold them onto the cake really well. So I'm really pressing that in there and making sure that icing is adhered to those pieces. And then I felt like it needed some curlies. So I have a video showing you how to make these, and that will be linked below, or I think I might be on my TikTok page. But anyway, so I am just getting a little bit of piping gel underneath all of these little curlies. I'm putting the ones that match the colors of the cake on there. And then for the final touch, I'm wrapping the base with some ribbon, getting some non-toxic glue on the base and on the back of the ribbon, and then I'm wrapping that around, and where it touches in the back or where it overlaps, just get a little more glue down and press it down. And here is the cake totally decorated with edible images. How easy was that?